He was top dog, or almost top dog. So Joseph gets sold to this guy Potiphar. And so Joseph is sold to this guy, but he's still trying to honor God. Even though he didn't see the big picture, he was still trying to honor God and do the right thing, do the next right thing. So he did. He did the next right thing time and time again. He was a slave for this guy, and so he had to do these jobs. And he did those jobs, and he did those jobs with excellence. Not for Potiphar, not for his brothers, but for God. He did those things as if he was doing them for God. And so he worked hard. So Potiphar noticed this and didn't understand his religion, didn't understand this thing with his God, but he respected him. And so he continued to give him more authority. He's like, well, I'm going to let you be over this. So now you're not just a team member, you're a manager or a shift leader. And then he gave him more and more responsibility. And so as it continued to go, Joseph continued to excel. He was the best worker. He was so awesome, so intelligent, so smart. He did everything right. And Potiphar's like, man, I can trust this guy with anything. And so he finally did. Potiphar made him basically in charge of all of his estate, all of his property, all of his money, everything, all of his cattle, everything that he had, Joseph was in charge of. So this is the part of the story where things get a little bit tricky. This is where things change a little bit. So if you guys are not with me, this is where you need to check in. Because this gets a little bit kind of like scandalous. Somebody just like check in? Oh my goodness. All right, so Potiphar, this is verse 6. Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care with Joseph in charge, and he did not concern himself with anything except for the food he ate. That's Potiphar. He's like, well, he's taking care of everything. I'm just going to worry about what I eat today. What a luxury. Oh, geez. I have to wonder, like, how am I going to yell at my kid today? I got to get creative, you know? Like, I got to spice it up. Like, I'm going to hang you up by your toes today. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to do that. Sometimes, oh, my gosh, my kids, if y'all are ever there, anybody want to babysit for free? Oh, wow, that really changed. Y'all should really pray about serving your youth pastor. All right, so we're going to continue. All right, so now, this is the second part of verse 6. Now, Joseph, ladies, listen. Joseph was well built. Hey. And, all right, he wasn't a butterface because it says he was well built and handsome. Justin's translation would say delicious. But he was well built and handsome. And after a while, his master's, oh, things are about to go downhill. His master's wife took notice of Joseph's deliciousness, my paraphrase, of course, and said, is it on the screen? Oh, wait, don't put it on the screen. This is way better. The anticipation's great. After I read it, you can do it, but this is killing me. So after she noticed the deliciousness that Joseph had, she said, come to bed with me. Listen, there's one thing about this lady. There's a lot of bad things about her, but there was no mixed signals there. She was very blunt. She said, come to bed with me. And in the scripture, this doesn't happen all the time, but I mean, there's the exclamation point there. So she wasn't all timid like, Joseph, could you like maybe one time, like, I don't know, like, if I just like crack my door and you just like trip and fall in, maybe you come hang out or something like that. She wasn't talking about like, I'm going to steal this. I heard it earlier from Austin. She was like, I was reading this scripture in Numbers, And I noticed that yours wasn't in there, so could I have yours? But please don't anyone use that. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. So bad. I could see that at like christianmingle.com. Like, hey, Bartholomew. Let's go have a Bible study. So, hey, listen, it gets worse. I was talking about David and Bathsheba years ago, and it says David noticed her unusual beauty, and in the moment I was so passionate, and I was like, and it says that David noticed her unusual booty. Which I'm just saying, if you don't know that story, you got to read that story. But, so here's the situation. Joseph's doing the right thing. Joseph's honoring God. He's a slave. He didn't choose this. But he's doing the right thing to honor God. Again, it's to honor God. It's not to appease anybody else. It's not to be like, well, I'm going to be on Potiphar's good side, or I'm going to try to be sneaky and like slither my way in there and then hook up with his wife. It was nothing like that. He was doing everything to honor God. Man, we're put in situations sometimes, you guys, where it has nothing to do with something that we did. We're just put in a crap situation. And some of us, Joseph didn't do this. Look, some of us do that. We just suck our thumbs. Or some of you guys, oh my goodness, I know adults that do this, and it just drives me nuts. You can't get past it. The crap situation. Like if Joseph was sitting there doing his work, and he's just like, well, my brothers, the story, they just don't like me. And you know that they threw me in the hole, and that's how I got here, and it's just like, woe is me. No, he didn't sit there. He got past that and was able to continue to do things incredibly as if he was doing them for God, and he continued to get blessed. And so here's the thing. After she makes this crazy statement to him and says, come to bed with me, in verse 8 it says he refused. It says that he refused. Now, right there, just quietly to yourself, you got to be able to answer that question, fellas. You got to be able to answer that question, ladies. In that situation, and I'm not talking about just someone saying, like, in the middle of, like, I don't know, school, work, wherever, it's just like, let's do this thing. I'm not saying, like, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. That would be so weird. And just, like, total weird dude thing that just plays video games all the time. Oh, yeah. I like you. I'm like really romantic and stuff. Let's play video game. But no, he said no. He said no. With me in charge, and this was his response, with me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. Woo! He's like laying down the law. And then he says, my master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing? And this is what I want you guys to understand. This next part is like so good. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against Potiphar? But here's the thing, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say, how can I do such a wicked thing and sin against Potiphar? It says, how could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? See, that's a totally different mindset. I think so many times when we have conflict, when we have issues, when we have pain, when we have hurts, when we have all kinds of crap going on in our lives, we look at the situation, it's like, man, and sometimes we fall to it. Sometimes we sin, and we sin against a person, or we sin against ourselves. But it's so interesting that he said, how in the world Could I sleep with his wife and sin against God? Now, obviously, he'd be sinning against Potiphar, but his mindset was so much higher than this guy named Potiphar. His mindset was so much higher than this woman. It was so much higher than what his brothers had done to him. He wasn't living in the past. It was so much bigger than holding on to this old dream of like being something great because I had this cool robe and my dad loved me so much. He's like, man, you know what? I can't do this because that would sin against God. And what blows my mind is all the tragedy, all the crap that happened in his life. He wanted to honor God. He's like, God's done so much for me. How could I sin against God? What? You were like beat up, thrown in a hole, sold as a slave, and like all this stuff's happened to you, and you're like, God's done so much for you? There's a mindset shift. And you know what? There's people who are like, woe is me 2020. Woe is me, all these different things. There's people, and I don't want any kind of like funny talk feedback, but straight up, so many people all over social media, it makes me sick, whether you're red, blue, Democrat, Republican, whatever, like woe is me, ... And it just blows my mind because all these people are thinking about this temporal right here stuff. And Joseph would say, man, I'm not going to get into an argument with you about that because you know what? I love someone that's bigger and greater, and let me tell you about that love. So much bigger than some of the stuff that we deal with and think about here. And even though crap stuff happens here, Joseph was looking to something greater, and he was doing the right thing. So that's kind of the bottom line. In your life, in the situations that you have, think about really quickly, as for some of you it's easier if we close our eyes, right? So I'm going to close my eyes. I ask you guys to join me. Close your eyes for a second. All right, and think what's a situation in your life right now that maybe is completely out of your control. You might not have any control in the situation, but you're in a situation or it's affecting you, and it's just a crap situation. It's tough, it's hard, it's painful, it's wrong, it's bad, it's whatever. ... Just think about that for a second. I hope you've got it. I hope you've got that in your mind right now, and you're just sitting there thinking about that. So here's the bottom line. As you're thinking about that crappy situation, as you're thinking about this story in Joseph's crappy situation, he continued to do the right thing, and that's the bottom line. So think about your situation, and then think about how this statement applies to it. When you don't see the big picture, do the next right thing. And as you're sitting there thinking about this situation, for you, what's the next right thing? And not what you feel like is next, but in a way that is kind of like a cliche, the whole bracelets of WWJD. What would Jesus do? The truth is, what would love have you do? What would Jesus have you do in this moment? What is the next right thing according to him, according to his word, according to what he taught us in the scripture? What is that next right thing? And so we're all challenged tonight as we have our eyes closed and we're thinking about this thing that maybe is weighing us down. Maybe we have control, maybe we don't have control, but there's this thing that is like an anchor and it is dragging us down. We can be freed from it by doing the next right thing. And even in those hard situations, Joseph absolutely believed that God had his best interest and that God was there. God didn't leave him. God didn't forsake him. God didn't leave him alone and cast him to the side. God was there. He was with him. And so in these painful situations, what would Jesus have you do? When you can't see the bigger picture, what's the next right thing to do? And that's for you guys to think about. That's for you guys to take. And I challenge you that you do something about it tonight. In a minute, maybe it's during this next song. It might be later you text someone. It might be later you're laying on your bed and you're just talking to God about it. But what is the next right thing for you to do? We're going to worship. You guys can open your eyes if you still have them closed. We're going to worship again. I believe we have, Austin, are we good? Yeah, we're good. So we're gonna do another song, and the reason that we change things up, we do have students that want to be baptized. Which, hey guys, I know some of y'all. Yeah, I know some of y'all. Some of y'all wanted to be in your group tonight. I get it. Our group times are awesome, but group doesn't matter when this stuff is like the whole point of group is so that this kind of life change happens. And so this is so awesome. So we have a couple students, and we went out there. We had them call their parents, and parents wanted to be here, so that's why we kind of waited a little bit. We could have just, boom, hey, let's do this. But we've got parents who are coming, and so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to worship this next song. I encourage you guys, stand, worship. Hey, there's still time. What's up?
We got one song, baptism, and another song.
Okay, so we've got a song. We're going to do baptism. And then we're going to do another song. So you guys, y'all can stand and worship. And let's get excited tonight, people. Yes.